on, and
Okay, so I might as well explain to you right now what's going on since you don't understand that question. So right now we're doing two things. Okay, we're having a Jitsi session, and we're also being recorded. I see Maggie just dropped in, and we can see
right.
her. We can see her from the nostrils up. Hi, Maggie. You might want to change your camera angle a
Right.
little bit.
Is that
There
better?
you go. That's much better. Yeah, so we're just getting started right now, and we just started the stream, and I was just explaining to Tom about live streaming, and it might be, uh, well, instead of showing you what it is, I'm just going to explain it briefly. We have two sessions going right now. We have the Jitsi session, which you're used to saying. So Jitsi is you just connect to the with each other. We're just getting started right now, and we just started the stream, and I was just explaining to Tom about live streaming, and it might be. Hang on a minute. Well, instead of showing you what it is, I'm just going to explain it briefly. So this is repeating everything we said. We have the Jitsi session, which you're used to saying. So and I don't know why it's doing that. You just connect to the with each other. We're just getting started right now, and we just started the stream, and I was just explaining to Tom about live streaming.
You're signed in twice, Luke.
Yeah, just hang on a minute here. Well, instead of showing you what it is, I'm just going to explain it. So let's see. Chrome is using your microphone. Here it is. See, it shouldn't be doing that. It should be just. It should just be doing what I'm saying once. So hopefully it will stop doing that because I really don't know how to stop it. Do we, Maggie? No, Maggie's been playing with this as well. And
you were signed in twice, and I think you maybe still are.
No, am I signed in twice? I'm only showing myself once.
Well, okay. Well, I see. Oh, I see you on my screen.
Right.
Yeah. You know, it's okay now. Yeah.
Okay, so apparently that was just kind of a glitch in the session. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is we have two sessions going on right now. We have the Jitsi session, and we have a session with YouTube. Okay, YouTube is being used as a recording server. So we are actually using Jitsi, and when we go into the Jitsi desktop, we choose live streaming, and then we have this special key that we have set up in YouTube that we put into Jitsi, and we start live streaming. Then it allows us to record the session that we're doing in Jitsi, and then when we're done with live streaming, we turn off live stream, and then we turn off Jitsi, and then after this video renders on YouTube, it has to be saved, and they have to go through the content and things like that to make sure you didn't use any copyrighted materials, which if you have a really short session, it can take a matter of minutes. If you have a 2-hour session, we've had it take like up to 8 hours, I think. Isn't that right, Maggie? Yeah. So it takes a while, and then we edit off the front and the back so that we don't get any extraneous, conversations that we don't want to have in there, and then we can send people a link so they can see it online and play it back, and that way if they don't understand something, they can go back and listen again and things like that. So I think it's a really good learning tool. It's kind of hard to perfect because we're dealing with technologies here that can be a little bit difficult to work with. Maggie, did you figure out the second monitor piece yet? I can't. You're muted.
Yeah. Actually not. I haven't taken it out of the box yet. No.
Okay, so we'll get you set up with that. So go ahead and mute yourself again. I'm getting feedback on your side. Okay, so
I pulled up my, the different things that you can do. And I see that it says stop live streaming, and then the one right below it is it's recording.
Yeah, you don't want to. So that's two different things, and you don't want to click that stop live streaming because you will. The biggest problem with Jitsi is that it's peer-to-peer. Are you familiar with the term peer-to-peer?
person to person, or
Yeah, it means that we're all equals on the network.
yeah, right.
So basically, there's two kinds of networking that we work with, and we work with client server. Whereas, let's say you go on the internet and you go into Google or something, you're the client and Google is the server.
Okay.
Okay. So I have control of what happens on my computer. Google has control of what happens on their computers. Okay. With peer-to-peer, as you can imagine, like it's saying, everybody is equal on the network. So in order, now the earliest and least expensive and networks, I'm not going to say the least trouble, but those were peer-to-peer networks. And when we first came out with networking in Microsoft Windows, everything was peer-to-peer. Okay. Then when we got into domains and more sophisticated networking, we got into client-server networking, which was a lot easier to manage because then you would have administrators to manage the servers and things like that. And the manager controlled this, the administrator controlled the conversation and all the different pieces on the back end. So the danger of peer-to-peer is that you can kick me off just as easy as I can kick you off. Whereas if we were in a client-server configuration, I could kick you off, but you couldn't kick me off if I were the administrator, you know. So it gives you, it puts the power, you know, more where it belongs. The server's supposed to be, server side's the one who's supposed to be more of a knowledgeable administrator. Now that's not always the case, but it is for us. So in peer-to-peer networking, though, you're going to have to put up with the fact that someone else can kick you out, you know, or they can turn off. So the difference between recording and live streaming is with recording, basically you're sending your recording not to YouTube, but you're sending it to like, oh, what's that box?
Dropbox? Cloud?
Dropbox, yeah. So Jitsi also interfaces with Dropbox. So you can actually record a session on Dropbox and then play it, share it on Dropbox with other people. But Dropbox isn't as universal. It doesn't give you as many tools to work with as YouTube does.
Right.
So Maggie and I are kind of playing with the YouTube thing, and we're painfully learning along the way and trying things. And she's working with the Spug Access channel. I'm doing this on my channel. So she won't be able to see this when she goes to the Spug Access channel, but she's doing the meetings, and we're doing all of our Outlaws meetings and other meetings on the Spug Access channel. So it's a really great way to learn and to do things. Okay. So,
well, I have a question here. That
okay.
There was one time I started to see about recording. Like, you know, I put together a Jitsi for my high school class.
Right.
Anybody that want to join? We got about 7 people that have been showing up off and on.
Right.
So what I want to do is record one of those sessions and then forward it to all of the people that didn't show up.
Right.
To watch on YouTube.
Right. So here's what you do, and of course,
Dropbox.
No, you don't want to do it in Dropbox if you're going to put it on YouTube.
How do you change that?
Well, so Maggie's the expert on that one. I'm just teasing Maggie. The problem is that if you put it on Dropbox, then you have to upload it to YouTube, okay? Which means that you have to have bought a lot of storage on Dropbox, and you have to download it to your computer, then you have to upload it to YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas if you record it directly on YouTube, it stays on YouTube. You can still download it to your computer. You can edit it on YouTube, or you can edit it on your own computer if you download it. And when you record it on YouTube, the URL that you give the people is created automatically by YouTube, and all you have to do is send them the URL, the Universal Resource Locator, you know, the HTTPS YouTube dot blah 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 blah, and you just so when you write an email and say, hey, this is the conversation we had online. These are the people in our class. And instead of them having to download a big file or anything, you just send them a link, and you're all done. So we could do a presentation on that. The thing is I don't think we've got it solid yet. I think we've got it still a little mushy, isn't it, Maggie? I mean, we're kind of it's a little mushy for both of us because it's YouTube can change things on you, and of course my mind isn't as sharp as it was 5 minutes ago. So so you have to kind of keep going over and write down instructions and tips and stuff like that. And after a while, just like anything else in computers, and this is something I know you've resisted for a long time, Tom, is that you have to be real flexible and you have to let the computer teach you. And then when something changes or something else comes up, you have to flow with that and not stick to the same routine all the time. I think the example that you came up with a while back, and this is a long time ago, is when you get in a car, you want to turn the key and drive somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's not how it works when you're doing stuff like this, is because you have so many different ways of getting presentations, and if you get on the wrong screen but you do the right thing, the next step might be something different than it would be if you would have gone through the first way, although the end result may be the same, or it may be better, or it might be worse. And the only way you'd learn that is through what we call the empirical method. You have to experiment a little bit, and then you kind of make little notes on the way that it works the best. So you don't want to get frustrated. You just want to be flexible and pliable and allow yourself to learn. And the computer will teach you. I mean, the computer is this awesome teaching machine if you let it do it for you. Okay. So, any other questions before we get started here? I mean, I don't mind answering these questions. It's okay, especially since it's such a small group. But why don't we head on into Chromebook a little bit, okay? All right. So, first thing I want to do is talk about what the heck is a Chromebook, and let me share my screen over here. So you're seeing this. This is an article. What is a Chromebook? Chromebook buying guide and advice. And I don't think Maggie has a Chromebook. She has an HP Windows laptop, but Tom does. And one of the main things you notice on a Chromebook is it has this little Chrome symbol on it right here, and that Chrome symbol is basically.
I don't see your screen, Bruce.
You're not seeing screen number 2 over here? Doesn't say Chrome on it? Oh, I see. I didn't click share. I'm sorry. There we go.
Okay.
All right. I didn't click share. So this is what you see when you buy a Chromebook. Okay. It will have Chrome in the upper left-hand Chrome. It'll say Chrome. And Chrome is it's built on the Linux operating system. So one thing you know about Chrome is it's pretty solid. Okay. And it compares, in this article, they put together some collective knowledge to compare things like Windows laptop and Macs and things like that. And, this article goes ahead and talks about Chromebook versus other laptops and things like that. The article is called "What is a Chromebook?" So all you'd have to do is do a Bing or a Chromebook search for that. But basically, the main purpose of a Chromebook is that it's a web-based computer. Okay. Its resources are basically put there so that you can get to the internet and you can do things on the internet. And but what do people do mostly on the internet? What's the point of having a Chromebook in the first place? And so basically highlighted here, the Chrome OS is a thin client with one purpose: to get you on the web quickly, cheaply, and securely. If you've already migrated your computing to the web, then a Chromebook is a definite win. And I can honestly say for myself, I have migrated about 75-80% of my computing to web, maybe even more. So for me, I can do pretty much anything on a Chromebook. And like I said before, I go between my Windows PC and my Chromebook and my Mac and things like that. And they won't talk to each other in their native languages, but they will talk to the same programs on the web. So it doesn't matter what you use to get there. as long as you can get to the web, you can share data and things like that. So Chromebook is just as good as a PC with Windows, as is just as good as a Mac to get to the internet. And say you want to get something from Dropbox, you can get it from any of these computers. They can all get there the same way. Go ahead.
Could you explain computing to the web?
Okay. Well, first let's talk about what a thin client is.
Okay.
So if we have something called a thin client, what other kind of client do you think there is?
I would assume a fat client.
Yeah, a fat client or a thick client.
Yeah, right.
So fat client. So your Windows typical kind of fat client on a Windows computer would be Microsoft Word.
Okay.
Microsoft Outlook, Photoshop, things like that. Things that have big programs. You install it from a CD or off of the internet. It's a big program. It takes many, many megabytes of disk space to install on there. And once you get it installed, or if you have a CD or something, or DVD, you don't even have to have a connection to the internet. So you can go ahead and use this client from sunup to sundown and never have to go to the internet.
Because
so
it's
that
computer.
Because it's on the computer. So that's what's known as a thick client.
Okay.
A thin client can still run the same programs and things like that, but it's just an access point to the internet. Okay. And the program is actually on the internet. Okay.
In the cloud?
In the cloud, yes. And the cloud we're going to define as some servers in the data center owned by a particular company. Like Google has its own Google Cloud, and they're located all over the country. But the closest one to us would probably be in the Columbia River Gorge. But basically, the cloud is Google servers that are serving up their applications, and even at their webmail and things like that, so that you can use your thin client in an internet browser, just like we're doing right now with Jitsi, using your thin client to get to the internet to run an application that in the past was only accessible as a program on your computer as a thick client. So the internet and the higher speeds allow us to run these thin clients that don't require as many resources on your computer to allow you to do the things that you need to do. Okay. So that tells us one of the big limitations of having a thin client is that if you have a thin client, you better have good internet access, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you have crappy internet access and you're doing a huge Word document, you're writing a book that's 500 pages long, you might be better off having that program, that thick client, installed on a Windows or a Mac computer or a Linux computer. Computers that have real full featured operating systems, whereas Chrome doesn't have all the resources, but it will still allow you to do all these things. Now, I wouldn't write a 500-page book on my Chromebook. I'm not saying I can't. I'm just saying that I wouldn't. Because,
why wouldn't you? Because
you would have to load all 500 pages from the internet onto your Chromebook to be able to edit it and things like that. Unless now, if I was running Windows 365 or Office 365, it wouldn't matter because that book would be on the internet and the servers on the internet would go through all the pages, page 1 to 500, and they're fast, so they can do it real quickly. But once again, you can see the limiting step is how fast is your home connection to the internet. Okay? So if you have a fast connection or a semi-fast connection from your home or your place where you're working to the cloud, then a cloud application works great. If you have no connectivity to the internet and you have a huge document or something that has a lot of resources, then you might want to look into using a thick client on Linux or Windows 10 or Mac operating system or something.
Well, if I wanted to write a book, would I not put it in documents?
Oh, you're talking about something different here. We're going to get to that in just a minute, because we're talking a little bit of apples and oranges here, and we're going to look at that in just a minute, okay? And so just the basics of a Chromebook. It's a thin client, most of all. Okay, now a thin client has the capacity to actually work when you're disconnected to the internet. And when you reconnect to the internet, it will sync up with the data that you already have on the internet. So it's not completely useless. It gives you a lot of flexibility. There are a lot of things I can do offline, and the moment I connect to the internet, my Chromebook will connect with the Google Cloud or whatever other cloud I'm connected with, and everything will get synced up. And so everything will it will basically look to you just like you had a thick client you're working with. So so let's talk about my documents. Okay, so
What about computing to the web?
right.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so for example, let's go over here to my remote desktop here. So let's take a look at the Chromebook.
Okay.
Okay, so this is just kind of a funky desktop on the Chromebook. But what's one of the things that you notice by looking at this desktop? It's not sharp and it's not vibrant. Okay, sometimes on a PC you can get a really sharp looking picture, really bright, lots of pixels, really sharp. On the Chromebook, especially with an external monitor, unless you buy a premium Chromebook, you're going to get this kind of a graphic. Now this works just fine for me, and I can get everything done that I want to get done.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't give me that premium background. Whereas if I went out and bought a Google Pixel book and spent like $1,500 for a Chromebook, I would have a really sharp picture, just like I would have on a PC, like a high-end Windows PC or a laptop, because you're paying for the high-end graphics cards and things like that. So a budget Chromebook is not going to give you a high-end background or high-end pictures and things like that, although it's good enough for almost everybody. Okay. One of the things I was telling you about yesterday, I don't think Maggie's heard this yet, is that it's becoming increasingly more difficult to buy inexpensive Chromebooks, is because everybody's buying them now and they're running out. So it seems like the only Chromebooks that are available right now are like $500 and up, you know. So I mean, you can still find one online like Amazon or some of the other places, but when I went online to Costco yesterday and started looking at Chromebooks, they were sold out. And that's kind of unusual because usually Costco has a ton of them. So, well, people are buying them for going back to school, and all the kids are working remotely, and people are working remotely at home. And the Chromebook is inexpensive, and it has a camera and things like that. Let me bring this up here. So, can you see where it says Chromebook on there right now, right in front? It says Chromebook right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So who's it for? It's for seniors and students and consumers. It can't give you a limited, if you're a rocket scientist or a corporate user, for many applications, you may not be able to run them on a Chromebook as a native application. That doesn't mean you can't run them from a thin client at the web, but most of the times, if you're a rocket scientist, you're going to have a different type of computer that you use, okay? So in a nutshell, a Chromebook is for anyone who wants a less express web blockers on them, ad blockers, just like you can with Windows and or Mac and things like that. And it's really hard to install ad blockers on like Android tablets and iPads and things like that. It's a lot more difficult. It can be done, but it's more difficult. But with a Chromebook, it's simple. You just do it through the Chrome Web Store. So there's just a whole bunch of things. One of the biggest things is you have protection against interruptions from viruses and malware. You don't have nearly as much on a Chromebook. And if you do get your operating system messed up, all you have to do is reset it. So it's pretty easy to work with, and it takes minimum skill to be able to do it. You don't have to be a systems administrator. And all you really need to know to use a Chromebook is your Gmail address and your password. Okay? It's good for people who are beginning to intermediate, even advanced users. I still use mine all the time. And you can get it online training for free or paid, so it's all kinds of stuff out there. And we'll go through the rest of this a little bit later, but let's go back and take a look at our Chromebook again. Let's see. Continue. Come on, continue. Oh, I need to hit it here. Continue. So I'm actually using a program right now called Chrome Remote Desktop, where I'm using my PC and then I'm connected to my Chromebook through a remote desktop. So we're looking on my PC right now. Okay. So here we have the applications. You click on this button here, and these are the most recently used ones, and that's why they pop up on the bottom here. But you can search for an application, or you can search on the web using this search box right here, or you can click on this bar to expand the menu here, and then you have each one of these dots here, and each one of these dots are pages where you might have different applications and things, and that way you can have multiple pages of applications and things that you can get to. These applications can be pinned to the taskbar, just like you would do on Windows down here. You could pin something to the taskbar for ease of access. If you want to take it off of here, you just right-click on it, and you can unpin it, and it will take it off and put it back in that menu. It doesn't leave your computer unless you uninstall it. Okay, so and this is that Chrome Remote Desktop right here. So there's all kinds of applications that you can put on here, and they all work fairly well. And the other really important thing we need to know about the Chromebook is the Files application. So if you don't see it in your front page and you don't want to go searching for it, all you do is you click in here. We can see it right here, but if I put in FILES, it will narrow your search down to Files. And Files, I know, is your favorite one, Tom, because you always ask questions about it. And it's good to know what we're looking at here. So when you're talking about your documents and your files and things like that, there are basically two places where things are stored. Okay, they're either stored on your Chromebook, which would be My Files over here. Okay. Down here is Google Drive. Now, where is Google Drive located? That's located in the Google Cloud. Okay. So in Google Cloud, you can have different documents and things like that, and save them on Google Drive. You got audiobooks and all kinds of stuff on Google Drive, and you can save files, and you can have documents and pictures and things like that. But this section in your files on your Chromebook means that these files are stored on your Google Drive on the internet. They can be accessed from anywhere, from any computer, be it a Mac or a PC or a Chromebook. If you connect to Google and Google Drive, if you sign in with your Gmail account, you can get to these files from anywhere, so it's very portable. These files here where it says My Files, these are actually located on this computer right here. And so here in Downloads, I have, the George Benson, 2020 down here. Okay, so we can listen to music right from here if we wanted to. And you can listen to and play music and things like that. You can store that on your Chromebook, but this isn't recommended. And the reason it's not recommended that you store files on your Chromebook is that if you need to reset your Chromebook, which means you need to take it back to a factory fresh condition, which you may need to do once a year or once every other year. It takes maybe 10-15 minutes to do, unlike the hours it takes on a Windows laptop to do. These files go away. Okay, so if you want to keep them, you have to have them saved somewhere else. So you'd want to plug in an external drive or save them to your Google Drive or something, and then they'll be there. When you reconnect to your Google Drive after you have refreshed and reset your Chromebook, everything on your Google Drive will still be there. Plus, all your applications will still be there when you reconnect and you refresh your Chromebook. The only thing that will not be there are any files that you were storing on your computer under My Files. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because they were on your computer.
Right.
And if you moved them to the cloud, they're now on the cloud. They're no longer on your computer.
Right.
Space. And that's kind of a space saver, I guess. But then
right.
you listen to the music anytime you want to, unless
right.
you internet and go to the cloud and take the music out of the cloud.
But my point is something different than that, and this is what I'm really trying to make sure that you understand, that when you save files on your Chromebook, okay, and you do not save them on Google Drive or on a USB stick or someplace else, that when you reset your Chromebook, and basically that looks like this. If I click, I'm down in the bottom right-hand corner now down here, way down here. If I click on this menu and I go to the settings here, and in the settings, I go down on the Chromebook here, all the way down to the bottom, and I click advanced and keep on going all the way down to the bottom. Every once in a while, and especially if you get hit by malware or something, you're going to want to power wash your computer. You see where it says power wash on the bottom here? Okay, power wash is basically, it removes all user accounts and resets your Google Chrome device to just like new. Okay?
Wow.
So when you do that, it's going to remove everything from your Chromebook. It's going to load the latest version of the Chrome operating system onto your Chromebook. But anything you had stored on your Chromebook under My Files in the downloads or, play files and things like that, they're going to be gone.
Sure.
Okay. So you better, if you want to have those things, you better have a copy somewhere else.
Okay.
And that's the hardest thing I think it is for people to remember and understand about the Chromebook, is that it's really safe to use because Google is really good about protecting you from viruses and malware and things like that. But just like any computer, something goes foobar, it goes wrong every once in a while, and you may want to power wash your computer. I think I've had my Chromebook for 3 or 4 years now, and I probably power washed it two or three times. Okay, so when you power wash it and you turn your computer on again, there are no accounts on there. So you would want to connect to your Gmail account. So there's a little button, and I can't show it to you because it will log me out of here, but it will say add account. And what you would do is you would put your Gmail email address in there, and you would then put in your Gmail address and hit enter, and then it would come up with all the applications you've already installed, and you'd be able to access all of the data that you have saved onto the Google Drive. Okay?
Wow.
So that's important to know. Power washing. So if, let's say you're using your computer and it just isn't working right, and maybe you turn it off and on, like we usually recommend for people to turn it off and on, and it still doesn't work right, you may want to do a power wash. And then that will give you a fresh start, give you the newest version of the Google Chrome operating system, which is a Linux operating system, and we have all the updated security measures and things like that. Plus, it will, and all you have to do is log back in with the same email account that you were using before.
But then everything is gone. You're starting at ground zero again.
The only thing that's gone is, like I said before, is files that you have stored under My Files.
Right.
Okay. Or if you've done anything special to it. Let's say you're a power user and you turned your Chromebook into a Linux machine, a total Linux machine. When it did a power wash, it would come back as a Chromebook. So, it's basically, it's to keep you connected to the Google operating system, and all your applications, everything that you see here will all come back, because where is that information stored?
In the cloud, I guess.
Yeah, it's stored in the cloud, but what is it stored under? We've talked about this a lot with Windows. It's stored under your profile. Okay, and your profile is basically kept along with your email address in the Google Cloud. So when you connect to the Google Cloud with your email address and password, you are basically reconnecting to your profile, and that's where all that other stuff is. Now, this stuff is on your Chromebook, and it never made it to your profile. Okay, it made it to your Chromebook for this particular session, but if you reset your Chromebook, you're going to lose what's ever under My Files. Now, the way you get around that is you just stick like a USB stick in there, and you copy the files to the USB stick, and you're fine. Or else you copy them from the USB stick, keep them on the USB stick, and then copy them back to your Chromebook, and you have full access to them. And how long would you have full access to these? Until you power wash your computer again. Now, if they're under My Files, and let's say I wanted to play George Benson, I wanted to play Beyond the Sea, do I need to be connected to the internet?
No, it's on your computer.
Exactly, it's on your computer. So because it's on your computer, you can play it anytime you want. But the caveat is, like I said before, the power wash, which is used for cleaning up your machine. And if it's not behaving properly, or you just want for some reason to get a fresh start, you can go ahead and power wash it, and it'll say, are you sure you want to power wash it? And it'll take like probably 10 to 15 minutes, if I recall, to do a complete power wash. And then when it comes up, it doesn't have any user accounts. You put in your Gmail username and address that you were using before, and all the files that were under Google Drive, My Drive, will all still be there. The only ones that will be gone is everything under My Files, whether it's pictures or music or documents or whatever. If they're not saved in Google Drive, they will be gone. Now you can sync between My Files and Google Drive, so that everything that you saved up under My Files does also get copied to Google Drive. Okay, but that you have to set that up. Now, the other thing you'll notice here under my programs, and I'm going to go back to the programs once again. I'm going to close this. Let's see. So all of these programs will come back because they are all saved with my profile. I basically bought them. Most of them were free, but I bought them. But one of the things that you will see on here is I will have things like, where is it? I should have Word on here. Let's see, Word. So I have Word on here, Microsoft Word, okay? It actually works, on a Chromebook, and I have to give it access so it can talk to my files on my device. I have to allow that access, okay? But it will connect to my OneDrive account, okay? So it will use my OneDrive storage. It will use and it will be able to connect, but of course it's read only, which means it will only let you read it. It won't let you write new files from here, but there are other ways you can use Word from the internet just as well. But the point I'm trying to make is you have access to these programs. If the other thing that you have is, and I actually have a spreadsheet here that I set up. So when you're using a Chromebook, you have email, and your email is Gmail. Now, can you have a Chromebook? Will it also read your Microsoft Mail?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, it does. All you have to do is, like I did down here, you have to install Outlook, which is down here on the bottom. Let me move this up a little bit. So here's Outlook down here. So I can actually get to my Outlook account here. So I can read my Outlook mail. Can I put Thunderbird on here? Well, probably not, because Thunderbird is what we talked about as being a thick client. So if I go to the Google Store here, if I go to the Play Store and I put in Thunderbird, email, here it is right here. Thunderbird email for Android. Oh, that might work. But you don't really see Thunderbird here. You see a whole bunch of different ones, okay? But I used this MyMail for a long time before on my Android tablet, and I can also install this on my Chromebook, and through MyMail or through even Gmail, I can still connect to other types of mail like Outlook and things like that. So there are ways to get to that stuff, although Thunderbird would not be one of them, because Thunderbird is a thick client, okay, which means you install the whole application on your computer and it runs it independent of being connected to the internet. Now, it has to be connected to retrieve and send email, but you can be totally offline and compose email and do things like that through that thick client. But if you look at, let's see, where is my spreadsheet? If you want to do word processing, Google has applications. It has a program called Docs. It has spreadsheets called Sheets. It has a presentation program, which would be like PowerPoint, called Slides. And when you connect to these applications, it takes you out to the web. It takes you out to the web, and it allows you to look at and work with these documents and things like that on the web. Now, let me ask you a question. Being an experienced Chromebook user, could you actually create a new document without being connected to the internet?
Yes.
Yes, you can, but there's a caveat to that. And that caveat is,
It would be in my files.
um, yes, it would be in your files, but there is something else. If you have, let's see, docs, DOCS. So there's actually a program called Docs on this computer
Right.
that you can actually compose. If you're not connected to the internet, you can actually install the Docs program from the Play Store onto your computer here. Just put in Docs. It should come up this way. Google Docs right here. If you install Google Docs on your computer, you can see I already have it installed. And so if I install Google Docs or uh, Sheets or their presentation program, slides onto my computer here, I do not need to be I do not need to be connected to the internet to create documents. I can do it right from my Chromebook. And then the next time I connect from my for Chromebook to the internet, it will sync all of these up to my Google Drive under my documents, so they'll all be there. So you can edit documents you have saved on your computer. You can edit anything when you're connected to the internet that you have saved under my drive, or you can create documents on your Chromebook, even when you're not connected to the internet, if you download these programs onto your Chromebook, like Google Docs and things like that. Does that make sense, Tom?
Yeah, it does. It does. Except, like when I call up Google Docs, they all come up, and I guess I could work on them. I don't. We're gonna try to see that.
See, the thing is that
Yeah, like
you're always connected to the internet. So whenever you start your Chromebook, okay, and you go to the internet and you open up Docs, it's going to show you everything under your profile
right.
on the internet. If you were not connected to the internet, for example, if you turned off Wi-Fi or didn't connect to Wi-Fi, you would only see the documents that you have saved on your under My Files on your Chromebook. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you can create new files and save them into My Files. And then the next time you connect your Chromebook to the internet, it will sync them with the internet. So they'll be under My Files. They'll be under the under your profile on the internet, and they'll be saved in the cloud. So they'll be saved in two places, both on your computer and on the internet. And that way you would not have take any chance of losing them.
Okay. Well, is there? Why are there any times that I would want to turn on my computer and not connect to the internet?
Yeah, let's say you're on a camping trip in an Olympic Park and you can't get an internet connection, but you want to take some pictures or you want to write a diary of your trip while you're out there, and then when you get back to town and connect to the internet, you can print it out or upload it to the internet and work with it just like any other file. So it'd be just like a Windows PC. You can take your Windows PC laptop with you on that trip. You can open up Microsoft Word and you can write a letter, and then you can print it when you get home. Well, what I'm saying is you can do the same thing with the Chromebook. If you installed the Word program onto your Chromebook from the Play Store, then you can open up, that application while you're out on your hiking trip, and then come back and it will sync up to the Google Cloud. Okay, and that way you can have a copy of that or print it or do whatever you want with it. So it just basically, I'm just explaining the flexibility of being able to use these documents from just about any place or any computer. Now, if I'm on a Windows PC, okay, and I want to get to my documents, let's say I wanted to get to the HipHughes file, okay, from my Windows PC, how would I get there? I would open any browser. I would go to google.com. I would sign in with my Gmail address, and then I would connect to Google Drive. Now, on some computers, you might have to go like to the Microsoft App Store or the Apple Store, and you might need to download a file called Google Drive and install it on your computer. But that will take you right to all your documents and things like that. But what I'm saying is how you connect with them is through the same profile that you're logged into your notebook or to Gmail with. And you'll be able to have access to all those files. You'll be able to update and make changes to those files. You'll be able to print those files. And then the next time you go back to your Chromebook, all those changes and everything else will still be there. So you can continue to update them and things like that. So it requires a little bit more flexibility and understanding of how the cloud works. But basically, the cloud acts just like another disk drive on your computer with the ability to sync things back and forth, synchronize things back and forth. Let's say you added 5 files to your computer while you were out in the middle of the Olympic National Park, not connected to the internet, and then you came back to your house and you plugged your computer back into the internet. Those files would get synchronized up to your Google Drive, and you'd be able to work with those files on your Google Drive, either from your Chromebook or logging into your Google Drive from any computer using your Gmail account, username, and password. So the cloud gives you that kind of flexibility. And that's kind of the difference between using a web-based computer, a thin client computer, and using what we're so used to using before, a thick client-based computers like Windows 10 and or Mac OS on a laptop or an iMac or something. Those are good for using when you're using thick clients, when you're using big files and you want to install things on your computer. But you can basically do the same thing and work interactively with other devices, because on you still have an Android phone, don't you, Tom? Samsung phone? Yeah, I mean, your Samsung phone is connected to the same profile, email profile, as your Chromebook is. So you can actually do all these things in your Android phone as well at the same time if you want. You can install Google Drive on your Android phone, and you can see and edit and do whatever you want to your files online. Google Drive is just a really small file, and its only purpose is to connect you to the internet, to your Gmail Drive, with your username and password that you're already using for your Gmail account. And that way you can share files or add files and things like that. One thing nice about the phone is it's really easy. It has a good microphone for dictation, or you can listen to things play back to you and stuff like that. So, there's some real advantages when you do have a Chromebook. But let's go ahead and look back to the Chromebook a minute. Just the basics on the Chromebook here. See if I'm still connected. I may have knocked myself out. Let's see. No, I'm still here. So let's do this. Okay. So once again, this button down in the corner here is just to bring up your applications. And these are the most recently opened apps, and they will keep on changing as you open more and more apps. You can either search for an app here, like if I typed in files, it would bring up files as an application right here. And I can open files, which is the same as the File Explorer, on Windows, or Finder on a Macintosh. does the same thing. Or else you can go through and you can search through all your applications that you have right here, and you can either use your scroll button or you can click on the different buttons and it will take you to different pages where you have files located, things like that. And there's all kinds of files and cool things you can do on here. You can do cloud printing, or you can click to a local computer that you have on your network. Doesn't even have to be wireless. You can connect to printers on your network. So there's really a lot of cool things you can do with the Chromebook. Wow. And I highly recommend working with it at least once a day. And the way you really learn how to do it is just kind of put your other computer away for a day and kind of learn how to play with it, or just use it for specialized tasks and things like that. Now, one of the nice things about a Chromebook is that they usually come with a lot of ports. Okay, they usually come with USB ports, and they usually come with audio ports, so you can plug headphones into it. They come with Bluetooth, so you can have Bluetooth connections, Ethernet connections. But the thing I like most about the Chromebook is that you can, even though you have a little tiny Chromebook, and mine's only 11 inches, I can plug it into a 25, 35 inch monitor if I want. And that allows me to have a nice big picture, and it allows me to use my Chromebook as kind of like a second monitor, or what we used to call a brick. Do you know what a brick is? A brick is like a little computer that all it is like it's about the size of a brick. And inside that brick, it has all your CPU and your memory and your storage drive and things like that. Let me continue here. But it has external connections to everything else, so you can plug in monitors and keyboards and things like that to it. So I use my Chromebook to plug in a larger monitor, or to plug in an external mouse, or to plug in little card readers or USB port replicators. I know on your Chromebook that you have USB-C ports. Okay, and USB-C, let's talk about USB a minute. Guess what the first version of USB was called? USB 1. Okay, and then they had a faster, better functioning version they called USB 2. And then the one that we start to see on computers a little later on, the ones with the little blue ports on them, are USB 3. And the USB 3 ports are faster, both sending information out and bringing information in. But you really can't charge your computer through a USB-C port, a 3 port. But then came USB-C, which is kind of like an oblong oval port where you can plug your charger into, or you can plug an adapter into it, and then from that adapter you can have Ethernet or USB 3, or you can have another monitor connected to it. So there's all kinds of things you can do with USB-C. So the modern Chromebooks almost all exclusively have USB-C on them. Mine doesn't, so I have some limitations, but that they don't seem to bother me much because I haven't really gone out and needed to get. In fact, I don't have a single computer that has USB-C on it yet. All of my computers are kind of legacy, and they all have the older kind of ports on them. But it's nice to have USB-C ports because you can put an external hub on them and have all kinds of fast access, plus you can charge your computer. So that's one of the nice things about the newer Chromebooks, is that they have a USB-C port as well as USB 1 and 2 and 3 ports, and they have an audio port. Often they'll have a power port. Sometimes they'll have an HDMI port. Mine has an HDMI port, so I can plug into a TV or another monitor. And mine also has a card reader, and some do. Some have card readers and some don't. Those are all different things to consider when you're looking at getting a Chromebook.
Let me interject a couple of things here. I'm looking at mine now, Bruce, and I've got a a USB on. I got two on one side and one on the other side.
Right.
They're just USB.
Well, they're not. They're not the regular USB ports. I remember your Chromebook. You have a. They're not square holes. They're kind of rounded on the edges, aren't they? The edges are kind of semicircular.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are USB-C ports.
Okay.
And those are powerful ports, and you can plug an adapter in there if you want to connect USB 1, 2, or 3 to it, but you need to have an adapter. But I believe you also have a USB port on there, a USB 2 port or 3 port on there as well. Does it have a little blue piece of plastic in it?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's USB 3. So you have kind of the best of both worlds. You have a USB-C ports, two of them. And you can charge from either one of those ports. Plus, you can hang off an adapter, a dongle that has a USB 1, 2, or 3 capability. It can have Ethernet capability. It can have all sorts of stuff on it. You can choose what kind of USB-C adapter you want to put on your computer. Plus, you also have like I said, a regular USB port that you can just plug in like a mouse dongle or keyboard dongle and things like that, or just a regular USB port without having to go out and buy another replicator. But you have 3 high-speed ports on there, so you have a lot of flexibility. The issue that I think you might be running up against is you probably don't have an adapter that has other ports on it, do you?
No, I do not.
Yeah, so so I'm on the Chromebook right now, and if I just brought up Google Chrome, and I went into Chrome here, and I went out to, let's just go to Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon.com. And on Amazon.com, I go to USB-C adapter hub. And I click on that, and it brings me all these types of hubs here. You can plug these little.
Wow.
You can get Ethernet, or you can get video, or you can get HDMI for video. And here's sound over here. This one has a card reader on it here. These different ones. So there's all kinds of different things you can plug in. You can put your keyboard or mouse in here. You can put your TV on this side here, or your second monitor. You can put fast storage on here. You can put connection to an external drive here. It can be a card reader right there. So it's $21, I mean, you can. So it's a 7-in-1 USB-C multi-port adapter. So that's why you're kind of living high on the hog here, because you not only have one of these guys here, one of these USB 3 ports, but you have the capability to have a powered port that basically connects all these different things to it. Of course, this doesn't come with your computer. You have to add this in. This is a external dongle here that needs to plug into one of your USB-C ports. Mm-hmm. But you have 2 of them, and one of them is probably being used for power right now with your power adapter, but the other one's probably open where you can plug in ports for all these other things. So what you need is what's called a USB-C hub multi-port adapter, and there are all kinds of them for all kinds of prices and things like that. So did you know about that? Yeah. So you can get these at Walmart or Amazon or pretty much anywhere that sells computer stuff. You can usually get a USB-C port on it, and they actually are very, very powerful. They make your Chromebook or your regular, like Microsoft Surface, I think only has one USB-C port on it. I think that's the only port it has on it. But if you plug one of these dongles in it, look how many options you have, things that it can run. There's a lot of power and speed that goes through these USB-C adapters. So if you have a USB-C adapter on your computer or Chromebook, you have a lot of options for what you can connect to it.
Well, I have a place where I plug in my power, which is the circular thing.
Yeah.
I have one of those.
And it looks the same as one of your other ports, doesn't it?
And then there's one next to it, but on the other side of it, that has it looks like a lock with a key.
Yeah, that's if you need to lock your computer, your laptop to your desk. That's what that's for.
What does that do?
You can actually lock your computer like to a desk or something so no one steals it.
But I don't have anything to plug in there.
Most people don't use that.
Say what?
So did you have any other questions, Tom?
No.
Okay. So Maggie, you still there?
Maggie?
Yes, I'm right here. I've been listening to it all, and it's been a great introduction to the advantages of a Chromebook.
Yeah. So I'm trying to convince as many seniors as I can that and not necessarily the two of you who are more experienced with Windows stuff, but to the advantages of using a Chromebook as your primary computer for a trouble-free and easy to access system that gives you a lot of flexibility and things like that. So do you have any questions? Because I need to end this session in a couple of seconds here. And we can continue later on because there's a lot of the things we can do with Chromebook, and I'd like to continue it and actually do some examples of things so that we have a better understanding. But if there's nothing else that we want to talk about right at this moment, we'll go ahead and schedule another meeting for next Tuesday at 10. If you'd like to join, I'll send out information on it, and I'm going to try to get a few other people on there. But it's kind of nice to have just a few people on who are asking questions and stuff. And Tom is great because he keeps me going, and he has lots of questions. So I think that we'll both learn a lot by working together on this. Anything else?
I think I have a SIM card in here too.
No, there's no SIM card in there. You probably have you see the card on the screen right here? Oh, that's called that's not a SIM card, that's an SD card.
Yeah, SD, that's what I have.
Yeah, SIM card is how your phone talks to the cellular network.
All right. Yeah, well, great, Bruce. Thank you so much. I look forward to next week. And what I have been doing, I've been going in and I found all sorts of tutorials. And I'll tell you about the question mark. Like when I opened it up, I did my launch, I think it is. Let's see. Well, I was trying to, let's see, what's new on Chromebook, Chrome. Anyway, there was a space there for question mark. And I clicked the question mark, and it comes with all sorts of tutorials.
Right. Well, if you click on the settings menu, let's see, where is that? Settings. I think that there is something. Oh, you know where I know where it's at. If you're in Chrome, if you go to Chrome here and you click on the three little ellipses down here, and you go down to Help.
Yes, that's it.
And you go to About Google. If you go to Get Help, this question mark right here, right here, this little question mark at Get Help, you get all kinds of stuff on the web about your Chromebook and about all the features and things like that. And these all take you to different web pages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been doing that, and that's really helpful for the things that I can understand. So, I'll continue to do this, and I'll write down questions.
Sounds good. All right. You're welcome.
Thank you for the intro.
Thanks, Bruce.
You're welcome. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here and then cut us out of Jitsi, and I'll edit this and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right.